Hi, my name is Joshua J. Cordero. I'm the writer and director of FOVOS.
My name's Allison Cordero. I'm one of the producers and had several different jobs, just kind of doing whatever was needed on set.
So we're going to give you kind of a technical background and tech commentary in this video. So thank you for watching FOVOS, and hope you enjoyed this commentary and you learned something from it. It's got our opening shot there, which was filmed with a GoPro in my parents' backyard in their pool. Although some people wondered, why didn't you ever really see the speakers here, Amanda or the psychiatrist, when they're talking, and you never see their full face, and when you do, they're out of focus. And that was because I felt like they were more narrators in this scene. I didn't really want to draw your attention to them. I wanted your attention to be drawn to the dream that she's describing. So we filmed the first scenes with them as their narrators of the visuals instead of actual characters just yet. It's the hangwoman scene there. That's what we dubbed it. That was a very hard scene to film. There's a bit of an inconsistency between how some of the black tears are falling, because when she's hung upside down, you can see like right there, it looks like she just doesn't have eyes. And then you see the majority of the shots it's running up her cheek. So, and I like that because it made it look surreal, kind of nightmarish. But she's actually just sitting up straight, and then we just rotated the image 180 degrees. And there's our first glimpse at the entity, which is played by Andrew Coral and looks very creepy. And my apologies if I dominate this commentary and you don't hear too much from Allie. I tend to talk too much. There's our opening title, which Allie made. Looks very cool. And Chris Askins of CAD Studio did all of our artwork and the font, and did a brilliant job. And he's amazing. Allison adjusted all the audio on this to... it was kind of a challenge to make Zach sound like Zach, who plays the tow truck driver, Timothy. He's outside. And those frames are actually so dusty because they were from our house. They were.
They actually were dusty, so we just left them that way.
But yeah, we thought it would work out that Amanda's kind of indifferent to little details and being clean. But anyway, yeah, Allie had to make Zach's voice sound like it came from outside, and it was all voiceover, and she did a great job in touching up the audio. It's our first real kind of extended look inside the Civic. It's actually just a gown we borrowed. Which something, I'll say right now, most of FOVOS was made entirely from volunteers and people donating their time and efforts. None of the cast and crew was hired, and that dress was a loan from a friend from Allison's. So... yeah, sometimes people feel like, you got to have a huge budget to make something. Well, you just, see what's available to you. Friends, family, you just utilize all the resources that are at your disposal. And just ask. The worst anyone can say is no. This is an unusually long take here. But I thought it helped complement that Amanda is just very much... almost sort of a shade in life right now. She just moves slowly. She's in no rush. Even like there's this loud beep, beep, beep and stuff going on outside, and she's kind of indifferent to it. She's not rushing to see what it is. These two shots are actually not in the same location. That's one apartment, and then that's actually outside of a different house. But then we just cut them together. We were going to film everything in front of the same location at the tow truck scene that's coming up in front of the same apartment, but that area ended up being too loud to film outside. There's Zach, our tow truck driver, Timothy. And we're excited to have an actual tow truck. Allison, what kind of problems did we have filming at this place?
Lots of noise. People driving by, slowing down to see what we were doing, honking. Might even have been some yelling. Some neighbors out working in their yard that day. Just all kinds of things. And, when you're already having a hard time getting the scene to go as it's supposed to with the actors' lines, and that just creates more problems and issues. And it was pretty warm that day, too.
Yeah.
So there was lots going on. So we were we were glad when we finished and we actually got everything that we needed to that day, despite all those issues.
Yeah, had a lot of noisy neighbors, and if you really don't have control over the environment, with like shutting down a street or whatnot, it's probably a better idea to try to set up your scenes in very isolated areas or indoors, preferably. And if you do need to shoot outside and you can't control public areas, do it extremely early. Is the best thing. This actually is not as early as I would have liked to. It's just based on the availability of your cast and crew too. But we did some color grading to kind of accentuate that it was earlier than it was. But it was very noisy. You get to see a lot of that, a lot of those kind of problems in the bloopers too, which if you haven't checked out, you got to watch because they are very funny. That little fly there was not planned. It's not digital. It's real. I actually was just randomly getting that shot, and there was actually a fly really annoying me. And suddenly he hovered around the bills, which I thought looked amazing. And so we just kept it. It was one of those things that was unplanned, and but just really helped accentuate that. That spider is real. If the spider isn't there, we actually, living in Kings County, there are lots of black widows here. So we actually wrangled up, I think about half dozen, was it? Black widows, and put them on a white mat. And Casey Cantrell and Andrew Gent and I filmed the black widows, different sizes. This particular one kind of cannibalized the other ones. That's why it looks so bloated. And we filmed it on a white mask, and then Casey digitally added the spider. So we just shot it from the angles we needed and just kind of dubbed it in the very specific shots. I really like this particular shot because a lot of the shadows on the perimeter of the shot there's a spider again, are digitally added. We kind of like the idea that it looked like everything's closing in around her. I'm sure a spider doesn't make it goes shh when it walks off, but sometimes you need a sound effect that just sounds cool rather than what sounds real. Those fireflies, Casey Cantrell digitally added. Casey does all the special effects in this, by the way, and he did a great job. This was a really complicated scene. It's completely shot in slow motion on a Sony Nex 700. And it's all shot, I believe, at 180 FPS. We didn't shoot it too slow. But so none of this was captured in real time. It had no audio when we were filming it. Hannah did a great job. Unfortunately, I can see, I guess Amanda has cars that move around in the background in her nightmares. But there's a lot that kind of has that is in this scene that foreshadows certain events. And I will just say in this commentary, we're really not going to explain certain symbolism. I'll explain real quick on that. We originally shot that. You can see the orbs there and the street lights in the background of that shot are not real. We originally shot this, tried to shoot this all on the steps of the Civic, but then Casey Cantrell was supposed to throw the fake blood into Amanda's face and completely missed.
Got on the side of her face, like half of her face.
But it wasn't usable. So bottom line, we ended up reshooting this, but it was too complicated and we didn't have the time to set it up again at the Civic. So we actually reshot that in my backyard, but then moved the lights closer to her. So we had to darken the iris of the camera. So that darkened our background. And then Scott Metcalf, our sound guy, he was the one who threw the blood this time. And Ashley, the problem with her, she kept giggling right before the throw because she knew it was coming. She had a really hard time being calm. And then so Scott distracted us all and said, "Hey guys, what if we," and then before finishing his sentence, as we all wait, what is Scott going to say? He just lunged forward and bam, just nailed it. It caught her off guard, and I thought it looked great. And so thank you, Scott. It was an amazing shot.
All of these scenes here in Amanda's apartment home, we filmed on the same day, and that was our first big day of filming. So it was a really a big, exciting day for us, as that was our first kind of full day of shooting that we were filming several hours. So yeah, all those scenes were done together on the same day.
Yeah. The only thing we filmed prior to this was like collage B-roll, like the flashbacks that you see later on. And so this was the first scene that had the whole crew there and audio, and then we shot all the bedroom scenes back to back. This is an office of a friend of mine who let us, Andrew Cromwell, who let us film in there. The lady you're about to see, the boss of the building, that is her actual family. That photo is her husband and her two daughters. we had a real complicated time trying to figure out where to put this photo. We wanted to communicate that Amanda is uncomfortable around families, and we were trying to figure out where to put this frame. And I had asked Kristen Champlin, who plays the building manager right here, to bring a frame, a picture of her family, and I didn't realize how big the frame was that she was going to bring. So we were trying to figure out where would she realistically put this. So it's funny how such little details sometimes cause big challenges, and you got to get creative with how to restage the scene to make it work. This office, by the way, was extremely hot. It was on what day did we shoot that, sweetie?
I think it was on a Monday evening.
It was on a Monday. So that particular office was closed Saturday through Monday, and they had the ACs off, and it had cooked in triple degree weather. And of course, you can't have the audio running. And
Air
it was,
conditioner running for the audio's sake.
audio. Yeah, you can't have it running. It was extremely hot. That wide shot you just saw with Kristen walking, I blurred out her face a little bit because the dialogue is just dubbed over. Some people, actually, no one's noticed it so far. This is a beautiful environment. This is the Civic Park right in front of the Hanford Civic Auditorium. Just looks absolutely beautiful with all the brick there. And I've never seen this area put on film or put in any kind of movie like this. And it just is such a beautiful place to photograph. And I really hope to see it kind of in more creative projects because it's an amazing place.
It actually was a lot busier that morning than it looks. Just the angles that we got. Mm-hmm. It looks a lot more deserted, but it was actually pretty busy with lots of people around that morning.
The park has always got people in it, yeah. We shot a lot of footage for this with Ashley getting the tour or Amanda getting the tour from the building manager, and because you wrote it and you just weren't sure how much you would need, so I have a tendency to overshoot things. In fact, I'm kind of criticized a little bit about that for my crew, that I like to overshoot things. I like to try to think of any possible option I would like, shoot, and then kind of see how it works in post. But I really liked the tour here. It just looks natural. Kristen stays in character as kind of a prissy boss, and this is a continuation of the first scene with they're still narrators in my mind. They're still narrating what's the action. That's the boss manager giving the tour. There's our first look at Carl, played by Stephen Coral, and there's a line here where Amanda is telling the psychiatrist, "Oh, there's one guy I know, he's not really a coworker because I don't see him too much. Oh, his name is Carl." We actually dubbed that line, and later the line "his name is Carl" was not in the original script. But then we realized that much later in the movie, when Amanda runs down the steps and she's screaming Carl, that no one's ever called Carl yet. So we knew people were going to watch it and go, who's Carl? So we were trying to think, where can we naturally squeeze in? We couldn't shoot anything else at that point. How can we squeeze in her identifying Carl by name? So that was squeezed in there. This collage was not in the script. Originally, I had in mind just putting a handful of these shots in the scene where Amanda's telling the psychiatrist about the job, about the building. And as usual, like I said, we shot so much stuff. And we were so blessed to be able to use an original song by Poor Man's Poison, an awesome band. And I knew I was going to use it in the credits. I really wanted to use it in the film somewhere. And I really was constantly having a hard time trying to determine where can we fit this song in. And I don't mean just briefly, but for maybe a good 30 seconds to a minute. And we knew it's a beautiful shot right there. We had so many good shots and all this cool content. We just thought, you know what, let's add a collage. So we played, I think it's about 90 seconds, I think, of the song. It's kind of re-edited to accommodate the length of this collage. And then we put this all together. And it kind of shows time going by. And it's actually, I think it's a great transitional piece from her communicating, "Oh, my nightmares have stopped." And so it was unplanned. In fact, a lot of these shots that you see of her in the bedroom weren't filmed for the sake of this collage. They were just shots and takes that we didn't use for the original scenes where she's in her bedroom. So that's why, again, I think it's always great to overshoot, because you never know when you're going to need more content. And this looks great. In fact, a lot of people have said that this is one of their favorite parts of the film, that the song is just so good and so much is communicated just visually in this. I love that shot, her eyes and the light right there. And right here probably is one of the biggest examples that is really trying to establish a lot of things about Amanda's past, but without communicating that through conversations or dialogue. I love when scenes are able to communicate important things about characters or about plot details just visually. That's always a lot of fun. And because of that collage and because of that song, we were able to do that. Didn't you say this was one of your favorite parts, that
Yes.
collage? Yeah.
And I think it also helped to show, we're wanting to show time passing, that she's been working there. Some
Yeah.
time has passed.
Yeah.
And so it helped with that also.
This scene, I think they might have mentioned this in the cast commentary, was at least just the first part where she's going down the stairs was filmed 3 times because the first few times we did it, I'll reference something about that shot later, but Ashley and the crew as well kept forgetting that she had the walkie-talkie on her, which is a huge plot hole because Carl's about to give her the walkie-talkie. And then, the first time we shot it, she had it on her and we didn't realize it and we had to reshoot it. And then the second time she had changed shirts to shoot another scene right after that. And she forgot to change back into the other shirt. So it had, I think we filmed that scene, just her going down the stairs there and coming up to the doors. Everything before Carl shows up was filmed a total of about 3 times. So be careful with continuity, people.
Did you want to talk about the shot with the hooded man? And
Yeah, the hooded man scene was that shot of Casey Cantrell, who plays the hooded man, was something that was added last minute. In fact, there was like a second shot over Casey's shoulder that showed Amanda walking down the stairs. That's actually Allie. The hooded man originally only appeared in the scene much later where he is watching Amanda take out the trash. And I felt like after watching kind of a rough cut that his appearance was much too abrupt. And so we actually added 2 things. One very brief, just that one shot where he's like watching her over time. And then the scene later where he's behind the palm trees watching her. I like the little thing Ashley did there with the shoulders. That was cool. So what was originally a very abrupt and to me just felt kind of random, we wanted to gradually introduce the hooded man as someone who, or something that was stalking or watching her over a course of time. And I thought that ended up working out very well. That was a very hard scene to shoot in the lobby there. There was just a lot of noise from the community coming through the glass, and we having to ask people to be quiet. And trains are very common in Kings County. But that's just one of the challenges. In fact, a lot of filmmaking isn't necessarily filming. It's setting up your scene, your lights, your props, and waiting for your noise to get in a way that's you're able to film with. I worded that weird. This is I really like this scene right here, and kind of like the previous scene too, where Ashley's coming down the stairs. It's very drawn out. It really is. In fact, you may watch this and kind of wonder why is this lingering so long? Why did we show that juice cup go in the trash can? Why are we taking so long to show her almost in real time practically without any jump cuts, show her cleaning up this mess? And that's because we needed to establish that there was time for something supernatural to have taken place outside of our perception. So when she comes back, we see the juice box is gone. So we had to have those few moments to where hopefully something's up, because as with the kind of genre of this film is, that there's got to be something going on in the background or something's about to happen. And we see now over the course of that few seconds while she was cleaning it up, someone or something is messing with her. That shot, the first person view shot, was accomplished just by attaching the flashlight to the camera and just moving it around quickly. I think that's one of our earlier views of the entity. I think looks brilliant. I love the wide shot, and he definitely looks menacing. That shot was filmed by Andrew Jant, who filled in a few times. He worked as like a production assistant, but when he was behind the camera, and originally he was just kind of a filler when one of the main camera operators wasn't available, but man, he got some excellent shots. So I hope we can have him film more. His time-lapse shots were captured with the GoPro. Actually, those were captured by Andrew too. So thanks, Andrew. He got some really good shots. This is not at the Hanford Civic. There are several scenes that kind of, whether it's in a public bathroom, the kitchen, a maintenance closet that are not filmed at the Hanford Civic Auditorium. We didn't want to overstay our welcome at the Hanford Civic, so we just tried to think of sort of industrial-looking interiors that didn't give away that this was clearly somewhere else, but that if cut together, it could still look like this is just another room in what's a big campus. The dialogue in the movie definitely makes it seem like the Civic is a much bigger place than it actually is. This location is not at the Hanford Civic. It's actually at a local church.
This morning, too, when we were filming, kind of dealt with a lot of noise. We're close to a freeway. There was workers operating some equipment outside, and so all of that was a challenge, too, and definitely just lengthened the time that it took to get all the shots that we needed that morning. So we filmed actually this scene right here, or in this area right here in the storage area, and the kitchen and the bathroom that will be coming up next all the same morning.
Yeah. I think it was this and maybe another one when we had to get up early. Sometimes it was just a very friendly group of people. We would just have everyone like sleep over at our house, and then we would get up early, and Allison would make them breakfast, and we would just all leave together. So it was a good group of people. In fact, almost everyone was a part of this. We've worked to a certain extent. Ashley here was in a youth event promo video that we made years ago, and Steve and Charles were both in commercials we had made. Kristen had been in a commercial and has done makeup for several of our productions. So I mean, there was a lot of familiarity with a lot of these people, which was cool. And so this bathroom is, again, not at the Civic. This is actually still at the church. A lot of stuff happens in this scene, really. There's a lot of like sort of supernatural stuff, or a lot of crazy things happening in her head that happen kind of back to back here. I love that effect in her eyes. We wanted to make sure too that wasn't just her looking up and there's something in my eyes, but it was more like, if you look closely too, she the expression on her face is very different. She's very stern and focused, and so it's almost kind of like that wasn't her for a moment. She wasn't even looking at herself. That right there was accomplished by Allison laying on the floor in this public restroom and just opening it and shutting it really hard, and us just timing it out just right, and then the creak was added in post.
The things that you need to do to accomplish some of the shots you need. It's like, you want me to do what? Okay.
This scene really startles most people. The drooling there was accomplished by chocolate syrup. And it was darkened a little bit, then darkened a little more in post. But it looks really good. Go ahead.
This scene right here, we're running down the steps, we actually filmed the night before all of those previous scenes. So this is one of the times that we had some of the cast sleep over. We filmed this the night before, kind of late, and then got up the next morning and filmed those other scenes right before that.
Yeah. This room, I think we say this in the other commentary too, but the psychiatrist's office is actually in our front room of our home. We had trouble. We actually went to look at some real counselors and psychiatrists' offices in the county area, and all of them were just so small. We just couldn't believe how small as a lot of them were, and we thought ours. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, to be able to fit the gear we needed and to get the angles.
To do the angles you wanted, and we had actually recently kind of done some changes to our home. It had been repainted, and new curtains, new carpet, and we kind of just thought, if we ended up borrowing a lot of furniture and some props and
decorative pieces, and we kind of just transformed our own front room here just to be sort of a psychiatrist's office. And yeah, it actually looks pretty convincing. A lot of people have asked us, where's this filmed, and yeah, it's just our home. So that's why I say, just a lot of times you just got to use what's available to you, and you got to get creative. The orchard scenes were interesting. We originally were going to film in a much smaller orchard, and I just really, like, the day before we were supposed to film the scene, I had a bad feeling about filming there, and I just asked a farmer friend of mine if he knew of any places that I could film at, and that very day I went to go see him, and then he drove me to another man's house who owned this orchard. And we had a long conversation with him, and yeah, he agreed to let us film in this orchard that was
much, much larger than the original one we were going to film in. And it looks great, and it's a lot more isolated. And I was so happy that we found this place because it was really cool. This is a drawn out one too, and obviously I don't need to keep a secret. This is the dream because I'm assuming if you listen to this, you've seen the movie. But this potentially can kind of seem like it is reality, and so it's a little drawn out more at first to kind of give you the impression of just what's going on. Is she going for a walk? And I couldn't do this with all the shots because of the lighting. But on some of the areas of the perimeter of the tree line there, you can see it's washed out. That was intentional. I tried to make it seem like it was kind of endless. Now, depending on what angle the camera was pointing in, you couldn't do that, and I wasn't too worried about consistency. But I liked on some of the close-ups of the orchards that you get this idea that there's nothing beyond the orchard. I kind of liked that. I'm a big fan of kind of really accentuating color grading, and that little flash right there was not planned. Casey added that, and I was really shocked at how cool it looked. In fact, in all that scene, we had just said, Casey, just dub in the entity who we had filmed against a green screen. Just dub him in a few spots here. But we actually didn't really specifically say right here and on this shot. We just left the Casey to get creative, and I thought he picked some really cool spots to do it. You can see there's a lot communicated just through the color temperature in this. The flashbacks obviously are very saturated and very warm, and in here it's very cool. It's very kind of, the colors are bleached out.
I like the way all the flashes here and the voices and everything. I mean, it really is bombarding you as the viewer too, and just kind of like your head spinning, with all these thoughts and accusations and things.
This was filmed in a local classroom, and these are actually just children of friends of ours. Some of them are friends of children of members of the crew. And I thought they did good. Some of them are smiling because they're being silly, but it almost made it look a little more menacing. And if you look really carefully, almost every shot that shows children in that is a little, it's slowed down because we got so few usable chunks of footage that getting that many small kids to be serious that are not actors. They were just sort of kids of again, family, friends, and crew members. And so you use what you can get, but we got what we needed. I just kind of teased Kristen about I always thought she looked too good in this scene. That dress she's wearing too, she looks great in it. But when she would walk around in it, I swear she looked like she had a hard time walking. I don't know. Women's clothes just always look they look great on them, but the women look so uncomfortable sometimes. That's random. I'm sorry. They don't look as good as my wife though.
Thank you.
Kristen loves, and actually in most of everything we've had her in, she doesn't play a nice person, which is ironic because she's incredibly nice and funny. This was the very last thing we filmed. Like I was saying earlier, the Hooded Man parts, we wanted it to seem like he was being more gradually introduced. And this was not filmed with a boom mic. This was actually just me, Ashley, and Casey. It was just the three of us. In fact, we had to have someone walk in front of Casey like that. That's me. And we just put the camera on a tripod, kind of measured the distance between the camera and the subjects, and then shot it, and then went back and watched the playback on the shot. So, and then Casey took the shots and masked himself out. That shaky noise you just heard was actually my dog, who's with us in the office. So, but yeah, I was really glad we introduced that more gradually. This was, interior-wise, was probably one of the most challenging scenes we filmed. It was accomplished. It's very late. Again, everyone's volunteers, so we had to work around work schedules and families and school events. And Kings County, this is filmed in the summer, so this was triple degree weather. Obviously, you cannot have anything cool running when you're shooting, and even if you had it on between takes, this room was so big it didn't really make that much of a difference. And especially when you're more elevated on the balcony, it is so hot. And I feel like this probably was there were only two scenes where I felt like people were getting very tired. The heat was getting to them. We were getting on each other's nerves, but we pulled together.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, and poor Ashley, she picked a sweater for one of the first scenes one of the first parts we filmed of the scene, so that was what she needed to wear. So she's wearing this sweater, and it's so hot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, near the end of production on this day, she was kind of saying, "We need to finish soon because I'm done." And so sometimes you just gotta choose your words and push your cast until you get what you need, because you definitely don't want to leave and you are missing something, or you get in a post and you think, "Man, I wish I would have got that," and you can't go back. So you gotta just treat them well. If you can't hire your cast, you got to feed them well, and Allie did that in spades. She did a great job of keeping everyone hydrated with good food, good snacks, coffee. That was huge. That was one of the most expensive things actually, just during production, was just having all that in hand. But if you can't pay them, you got to feed them and hydrate them well. The chair doing that was just filmed with moving the chair just a little bit at a time. And I think we did it like 30 different times, and then just blended it together and did a motion blur, and that was that. I love Ashley's acting right there when she sees Carl. That one, just because there's so much that happens timing-wise when she's running down the stairs. Every take we did of that looked very different, and their acting was very different. And I love that one because that seemed like the one where Ashley was the most terrified. And a lot of people jump at that part too, with her coming down and crashing into Carl. Steve Corll, again, has been in some of our other productions that we've done for like local churches, and he was in, I think, one commercial we did for a healthcare company, and he's always really fun to work with. He, in some ways, makes some things challenging because he always lightens the mood, and sometimes when you're doing this very serious or dark scene, it's hard to get back into character, but he always kept things fun and interesting and fresh. And yes, I will talk about this. You are seeing a flash, I think it's just a frame or two, of the entity there between these shots. And I intentionally edited this in a way that, if you notice throughout this whole part, it cuts to the next shot right when one of the flashlights is shined into the lens. And I didn't want to show the entity every time it cut. It does it the first 2 times it cuts to reaffirm that, yes, you did see what you thought you saw. Yes, you did see something unusual. And then it doesn't happen for the next 2 or 3 times, I think, so now you're not anticipating it. And then I think it happens one final time, and it's probably the most obvious one out of the 3. We actually shot close-ups over the shoulder shots of that whole dialogue there too. But in the end, I thought it looked a lot more ominous, just keeping the wide shots with them talking, and we just dubbed in the audio from the close-ups, and I thought it worked. I really liked the wide shots and how the lights looked, and no extra lights were used in that scene at all. That actually was all just their flashlights, and there were some exterior lights outside the building that kind of went through the windows that gave us just a little bit of additional light. But most of the movies here with FOVOS was shot with a Canon Cinema EOS C100. That is incredible, and I'm not at all a paid sponsor for Canon here, but I just say that's an amazing camera line and great cameras for independent filmmakers. I personally do not like using DSLRs. I want a lot of the prosumer features that you get with prosumer cameras and not with DSLRs, and I've absolutely fallen in love with that line of cameras. Allison made this dinner here, and it's actually delicious. It's absolutely delicious. I've had it many times. Allie's a fantastic cook, and Ashley hated spitting it out because she just loved it so much. In fact, when we were done filming this scene, a lot of people were opting over who got to take home the leftovers because they were so good.
When you'll actually see too, at the end of this scene, when Carl takes Amanda's plate and dumps all the food on his, he actually took all of that home and saved it for lunch the next day.
He really did want all that.
He did like the salad, so that was good.
There aren't too many longer dialogue scenes in this movie, but when they are, they're a little longer than you would normally see, and I just felt like they had to be a certain duration, have a certain amount of content to really feel real, and but they're very legitimate. I think both Steve and Ashley worked well together, and this was filmed probably around 1 or 2 in the morning, I think, this particular scene, so it was kind of hard to get everyone to focus because we were all a little wired. The scene following this was actually filmed first, right before we filmed this scene. And it was loud. Again, this room's kind of close to a freeway, and We just, you work with what you got, and we had to wait sometimes for louder traffic, and people were giggling a lot. But to sometimes that slows things down. But you always want morale and to be high and for everyone to be in a good mood. So it's definitely worth it. It all comes together. You want to keep everyone in a good mood. You want everyone to enjoy what they're doing. There's some great outtakes on this too. Yeah, if you haven't watched the blooper reel, you got to check it out after you finish listening to this. A lot of the jokes here, the Steve doing this with the kale and even the whole, why did you make so much food line? He said, I like leftovers. Were actually just kind of added to sort of lighten up the scene a little bit. This is a pretty dark toned movie, and we thought we needed to have, even if it was extremely minimal, there had to be something that was a little lighter toned. And Carl's definitely the character to be doing something spunky and silly. I love that shot with her reflected in the water. That goes back to those the C100s. Is the shallow depth of field is amazing to work with. You can get some really, really cinematic looking shots that you'd be surprised to get with a camera that's in that price range. This was a very hard scene to film too, because the dialogue that's coming up was actually, I added some dialogue the day before we shot this, much to Steve's frustration. And I'd say earlier, the girl there, the girl with the red balloon, is Hannah Coral, who is actually Stephen Coral, who plays Carl. It's his daughter, and that was kind of cool that they in some ways got to be there together on set. And I know Hannah and Ashley loved working together. This was a hard scene to light. Kind of a lot happened with this. And if you notice, the lighting's a little inconsistent. Sometimes it was just adjusted just to kind of get the shot you wanted. And it all builds up to this kind of climactic boo, which I think this scene probably makes people jump the most. Now everything's gone. Except for the water that stained the carpet.
We probably should have filmed that shot first.
Yeah, but hey, kind of depending on what format you're watching on, it can sometimes just look like a shadow. So, but that plays off the whole too. Is this real? Is this not real? What's happening? So some things that happen do happen. Some things that happen don't happen. Ironically, a lot of the dialogue, not all of it, but some of the dialogue that I had added last minute is actually not in the final cut. I kind of felt like it was starting to become sort of preachy, so I did cut out several lines of the new dialogue that I added, which that's no fault of Steve's. I think I just could have condensed what I wrote originally. But they both did a really good job here. This was, I don't think you really see them in this room, but there are two double glass doors in this room that are facing a freeway. And so, again, this was what was available to us, so I was happy for what we had to work with, but it involved a lot of wait, as like a diesel truck drove by or a sports car. And you just be patient and do the best you can. Goodbye, Carl. And now we're back in the psychiatrist's office. All of that beautiful looking furniture is not ours. We borrowed all that. I want to say that was Ashley's idea of, as sort of the film progresses, her mental state becomes more questionable and deteriorates more and more. And so if you notice, a lot of the times the way she is sitting is a little more awkward as the film progresses. If you look really close to there, Ashley is not looking at Charles. She's actually looking, she did not have her lines memorized for this. And they're actually on an iPad, and someone's holding it just on the opposite side of Charles's head, and she's reading it. But it worked out. You be prepared. Remember, you're working with volunteers who are very busy, and they still did a great job, but you be prepared to accommodate them in any way. I think we say this in one of the featurettes, but Charles has a very theatrical background. He has a music album. He's a singer. He's been in several productions that we've done before. We even made a music video for him. And this is a very different role for him. But Charles always wants to do a very good job. And it was very different seeing him in this kind of subtle, focused role, but he definitely brought the level of intensity and preparation that he does his other stuff that he brought to this. Love those shots of the Civic. They really look awesome. This, I don't want to go into too much detail about this, but the Hooded Man was originally supposed to be played by someone else, and who was very excited about doing it, and then they were shooting, he just didn't show. And to this day, we have not heard back from him, despite us trying to reach out to see what happened. So Casey Cantrell just filled in real quick. And I thought he did a great job.
Well, we were thankful he was there,
Yes.
and that he had brought this hooded sweatshirt
Yes,
with him
randomly.
for some reason.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it worked.
It worked out. So when we filmed that, we actually didn't have enough personnel to capture the audio as we were filming. So Allie had captured the audio from separately. So actually everything, all the trash can rolling and was captured after we had filmed it. And then we had dubbed it in. It was on the same day, but we had to do it separately. And then all that, too, was captured a different day, the audio and the scene where she's telling Carl she'll go somewhere else because there was so much stuff in that room at the Civic that we couldn't unplug. So that's actually why she holds the walkie so close to her mouth, so we could ADR her saying, Carl, I'm going to go downstairs. So now, too, at this point, the Hooded Man has been more gradually introduced. We know this is someone who's been around for a while, and we don't really know what his intentions are, or even really, is he a figment of her imagination? Is he real or not? Does he represent something? But we know that we know that it can't be good, his intentions, whatever they are. My father criticized me for this scene. He's a maintenance manager, and he was saying that she would have cleaned the sinks and the toilet first and then mopped, not mopped first. But then I said, well, hey, she could have been different bathrooms, though. That's what I told him, which it wasn't. But he was saying that that would not have been the chronological order of properly cleaning a bathroom. So that was funny. Yeah, Allison did an excellent job of adjusting the audio here. You're hearing the voices kind of echo in her head of the psychiatrist and herself, trying to say, like, yeah, this isn't real. And then we see, oh, this is real, we think. This was extremely challenging to film, and I know Casey and Ashley give me a hard time about how long I made them shoot, because we shot this from a ton of angles, but a lot of it was just to seeing what worked best. And she actually did need Casey there, by the way, by accident. We used that. And then that walkie-talkie comes in handy for a lot of things, doesn't it? But I thought it turned out great. And sometimes for this, you really need to do it over and over and over and over again to get the choreography looking the way you want it to. So yeah, we blended those two locations. Then the bathroom was a church, and now we're back at the Civic. I love the way those curtains look. And then now here is the girl who's been haunting her nightmares and is in reality, or is this reality? I love Ashley's reaction. It's kind of like, who should she be more scared of? I want to elaborate on specifically on what this means, but some people get confused at this moment, at least at first, because they're under the impression that the Hooded Man is a manifestation, which may or may not be true. If he is part of the entity or a manifestation of that, but yeah. We borrowed a high jump mat from a local high school, and that's what Casey fell on there when he fell backwards. And we just shot it from a bunch of different angles. Andrew Jent is on the balcony operating that light there. I thought that looked really real. There's a lot of moments where something scary happens, and then it transitions into almost kind of playful sound, playful action, and to me that just made it more creepy, and I liked that. This scene, I'll try to summarize this real quick, was not planned. We wrote the script and got the tour of the Civic from the building manager, and we had decided where every scene was going to be filmed. And then after we had decided everything, the script was done, we were just about to start production, the building manager showed us this room, which is underneath the stage at the Hanford Civic. And we loved it so much, but we couldn't really think, there's nothing that we can relocate the setting to. It doesn't really make sense to film any of the scenes here. So he added this scene. And for the longest time, I wasn't even sure we were going to keep it. I love this scene. It's one of my favorite scenes, actually, but I wasn't positive that it fit in the movie. I just wanted to utilize this location. And then really, when we were close to completing a final draft, I finally realized that it goes in perfectly with being right after the scene of the attack scene on the stage, because she blacks out on the stage and then wakes up underneath the stage. And yeah, we can see she's underneath the stage. So it actually worked out great. And I'm glad that I didn't reduce it to being like a deleted scene on the deluxe edition DVD. Ashley, when we filmed this, we filmed a lot of shots that didn't require her and the entity being together. And then we only filmed her and the entity together when they needed to be. So when we filmed her very first time, we actually filmed her doing the scene, seeing the entity for the first time, and she was terrified. Andrew there looks so strange crawling forward as the entity because we actually filmed that with him moving backwards. I wanted him to look unnatural in the way he moved. So we actually filmed him trying to crawl backwards as fast as he could and then just played it in reverse, which made him move forward in post, and that kind of is how we got that weird look. And actually all the screams that Ashley is screaming in that scene when he's charging her is they're not the screams from those shots. They're actually for the screams from when she first saw Andrew and his entity makeup, and she legitimately was very terrified. And part of that was because we sort of pranked her. And I'll just direct you again to the bloopers if you really want to see what happened. That you get to see what we did to her. We kind of terrorized her a little bit, but it worked because we used her screams in that scene, and she's definitely terrified. Sorry, Allie, I'm dominating all this. Do you want to jump in? I tend to be the talkier person out of us. Yeah. Allie's a woman of action. Go ahead, Allie.
Well, the dialogue scene here, as we referred to it very often, the dialogue scene on the steps. And I mentioned in the cast commentary also that we filmed this over 2 evenings. And with it being so late, we were surprised how many people were out driving around, kind of like circling the Civic, people out walking, people yelling from their vehicles, walking by, riding their bikes by. I don't know. And I don't think you don't see most of that except for a couple cars, I think, in this scene, but there was a lot going on.
Very noisy.
And, it was late at night. We're working with these volunteers that got to get up and go to work, and it was kind of frustrating. So we had ended up having to just call it that first night and say, okay, we're going to have to reschedule the rest of this. You guys need to get home, and we're just going to have to try and pick it up on a different day. And so that's what we had to do. But we really wanted to make sure we weren't rushing it, and that they weren't, just so tired from trying to film all this, so we could get the best quality out of their lines, the best delivery of their lines that we felt like the scene deserved.
A lot of these wide shots while they're talking, I think you don't see one for a little while here, but they were, if you listen to the scene, there's a slight like shh, and it's not ambulance noise, it's the sprinklers that came on, but only during the second day of shooting out here, which is obviously a huge lapse in continuity. So earlier on, we showed this very wide shot of them sitting there, so you could really see what that sound was. And so originally that shot was only being shown to justify, yes, there are sprinklers on, but those ended up being some of the best looking shots, these very wide looking shots that show them at a great distance with the building. And it's one of those things that was like real, oh my gosh, we couldn't turn the sprinklers off, we didn't know they were coming on. But then in a way it worked, I thought, in the scene's favor. And it's just awesome when the challenges that reveal themselves turn into something great.
The little girl that plays Amanda's daughter is actually Josh and my niece.
Yeah.
And she really liked Ashley.
Yeah.
So it definitely helped with the scenes that we filmed for the flashbacks, because she really did enjoy playing with her, did enjoy being around her, really did like just doing what they were doing in these scenes together. So it definitely helped out the believability. We weren't trying to force her to hug someone or, whatever it was we needed her to do.
She was very natural. To be honest, she took directions better than some of the adults did. She was shockingly great to work with. And Addie has a little movie star in her, I think. It's another underwater shot with the GoPro. This is That's the big. That actually was literally the last thing we shot. Sorry, so it wasn't a scene, but it was the very last thing we shot. It was actually in our bathroom. We wanted one more shot of a flashback of her looking like she's in despair. Yeah, this is a very dark content of her daughter dying, and you always think of how do you do this and it be convincing and it be tragic, but not graphic or inappropriate. And I think we accomplished that. Right about here is actually where day 2 of filming this scene started. It was kind of when the heated part of the argument starts, and I love these are actually my favorite shots in this scene of these wide ones. The Civic is such a beautiful place inside and out, and even the Civic Park, a lot of those lights around them are not lights from gear. They're exterior lights just that surround the building, and some of the blue and red lights are just sort of lights from the businesses and theaters in the area, and the area just looks awesome. The palm trees in the background. And then the second day, too, of filming, it was windy. It was not windy the first day, but actually, if either one of those days was going to be windy, it was great for day 2 to be, because the wind looks amazing in Ashley's hair. So that is just the wind. I actually got very into this. She started crying on one take.
Yeah, when we were watching through, she was like, "Oh, I actually got a tear in my eye. I wish there was a close-up for that one shot." So,
yeah, Steve did a great job. This was very challenging, I think, as an actor, Steve's part, because you can do what he's doing in a way and really come across as a jerk. And he didn't. He was stern and blunt, but not a jerk. That walkie being thrown there, I don't really remember who came up with the idea to do with that last minute, but it wasn't planned. But when we had the idea, we liked it because it was sort of like, "Carl, leave me alone. I don't want anything to do with you." And so it was really one of the ultimate gestures to distance herself from him, to reaffirm that, leave me alone. And then this scene right here from the balcony had to be re-edited, because at first it showed her walking and stomping at the balcony and plopping down, but she was still wearing her walkie, because this was filmed prior to that scene. So it's actually re-edited, and some of the shots are cropped a little bit to try to hide the fact that she does not have the walkie, or hide the fact that she does, and try to make it seem like she does not have it.
well, and I think at first we weren't sure which we wanted to end up going
That's
with.
true.
We filmed the end with her throwing the walkie and without, and then decided in post what it is we wanted to go with, and liked her throwing it at him.
Yeah. This was shot from a lot of different angles. Even in the first few seconds of the curtains opening, it shows probably like 5 different angles, and I thought it looked great though. This is kind of this situation reaffirming that sort of expressing all the judgment that has been thrown at her.
And the guilt she's feeling,
Yeah. I like that shot of Addie reaching up to her. A lot of that was just unplanned. That was just them in an orchard. I love these close-ups. And then we have this shot here, which that shot right there kind of starts to clarify on some things. I don't really want to elaborate too much, but it kind of begins to give a little new meaning to some of the things that are happening to Amanda. And there's a lot of that in the movie. You don't know what's real at first and what is real. And some people don't even know what's real or what isn't real in the end. But they're still not sure. But I love that, though, that it's not vague. I think there's enough there for you to definitely come to a conclusion. But yeah, we definitely wanted a certain level of ambiguity. Ashley had a safety harness tied around her hair to make sure nothing bad happened. And there's people just out of frame, too, to kind of watch over her. I think in her commentary, she exaggerated quite a bit about how dangerous the situation was, but that's okay. Ashley's a storyteller in a good way. This scene has no audio to it. Everything you're hearing when she wakes up and the pills was all added in post. Because I didn't want you to hear the footsteps of her walking. I wanted it to be very much you were just hearing the music, and the music is definitely intended to be a counterpart to what's going on mentally. It's loud. There's a lot going on. It's kind of grungy and rough sounding, kind of like of all the loud and just thoughts that are just pounding in her head right now of her contemplating this. And this is, I think, everything of the entity so far has just been a glimpse, and now we do see him kind of full on. And that Ashley is not actually looking at the entity played by Andrew Corll, that he was green screened. In fact, I'm the one he's actually looking at when we filmed this. I was his eye line. We brought him together. I think it came out pretty good. And Susie, oh my gosh, what's her last name? Gonzalez did all the makeup design for the entity, and I thought she did an awesome job. That was actually a really hard shot to get because none of the pills, well, they're actually Tic Tacs, would stay in frame. They kept bouncing out no matter how high, even if it was just out of frame, we poured them. So eventually we got it though. It was actually a funny outtake of us trying to do that. We're like, no, we tried to do it from the balcony and no pills came in the frame whatsoever. A lot of the intense expressions on Ashley's face right here are actually between takes, whether she heard a strange noise in the orchard, and we just ended up kind of incorporating them in there. And we can see right now too, the sunlight starting to pierce through the trees. That was intentional. We wanted it to kind of seem like it wasn't as bleak as the first scene in the orchard. Kind of see that she's becoming a little more combative.
This wasn't in the original script either. The kind of flashback to the thing that Carl said. It's kind of a decision made in post.
Yeah, I think we needed something that was a little more obvious. That what was it that was prompting her to become more combative and build up to that no, where she's finally sort of resisting what's been happening to her. And then when she does, based on what happens next year, we kind of see that there is something much more malevolent behind what's been happening to her. And I thought that worked great, though. I loved the echoes of that, which again, Allie did all in post. And actually, I did want to point out real quick that Allison, who cleaned up the audio and did all the special effects of the audio, she did that in Adobe, which we're not spokesmen at all for that, for Adobe Audition. And she did not know how to use that software at all prior to editing FOVOS. She went on to lynda.com, which again, not a spokesman for it, but we have a subscription to that, which she just watched about 2 solid days worth of tutorials, taught herself how to use it, and then started to use it for FOVOS, which I love. So I'll say film school is not for everybody. I'm saying it is a great thing for some people, but gosh, with the resources that are online now, the way you can teach yourself through trial and error, and how many people share their wisdom and experiences online for free, there is just so many resources and opportunities. If you look real closely there, you can see the color temperature shifted as Ashley had her eyes closed and then opened them. And this wasn't really in the script either. We actually, a lot of these shots are filmed at different times of day. The light's actually coming through both the east and west side of the building in these shots. And sometimes we added like flop filters or reverse filters and tried to mesh it all together. So some is like the sun setting and some is the sun rising. And then they're just combined to make it look like it's this natural light. This is the first time you really see the Civic in a way that's color graded to look warm and vibrant and saturated, and every other time it's looked a little grungy and the colors have been bleached out. And like I said, probably to a degree much more than probably a lot of directors, I really like, I hate to use the word overuse, but almost to overuse colors to
You're overdoing it.
to really hit an emotional tone. I really like doing that. It's just something I enjoy doing. So now even outside the Civic, we see it's vibrant, it's warm, it's you could almost just say this is how it's looked all the time, but now her perception of this has changed. Her perception of the world. Even how she looks up and she smiles. And this was weird for Ashley to do this scene because all of her acting is really dark and gloomy and sad or angry. And this is literally the only scene that she's happy.
Except for the flashbacks.
Oh, the flashbacks, yeah. That bird there, again, was unplanned. It's awesome how little things like that happen, like the fly over the bills, and now you have this cool bird fly across the screen. And even actually earlier in the flashback with her daughter by the pool, there's a dragonfly that flies in front of Addie and kind of draws her to the water. That was not planned. That wasn't added. It just kind of happened. And it's so awesome little things like that happen. And here's our epilogue scene. That's a very almost unusual thing to do. I wanted there to be a little bit of dark humor, that we see that this entity has has a sense of humor, but a dark and twisted one. That Here's the twist, and again, don't expect for us to elaborate on the story on what this means or represents. We kind of want you to talk to other viewers, and kind of figure out exactly what you think it means. But this, I think everyone who has seen this really catches them off guard. There's kind of several things that happen in this scene that really take everything you've seen and kind of twist it around. Hannah did an amazing job, and I just wanted to say, too, out of everyone that we tried to audition to play the girl with the balloon, that literally Hannah was the only person whose parents said, yes, she can be in it. So she was literally the only girl we had available to be in it. And I kind of just thought, oh, well, for better or worse, this is what we got. And I don't think she could have done any better. I really don't. I think it was amazing how blessed we were to work with her. And there's Paula. She's got more of a cameo here, the alternate form of the entity. All those documents or folders are actually like our Remscape documents.
Whatever was in Josh's bag.
Like
that's Josh's bag.
Yeah, it's my actual messenger bag, which everyone kept saying, where do I get a bag like this? I love this bag. I got it on eBay. I don't even remember who sold it to me. Now a lot of people are really wondering, what? The guy on the bike was not planned. That just happened. We just kept it.
So this kind of gives you a little bit of time to think about what just happened. It's kind of why it's so drawn out right there. Yeah, we really let that shot linger for you to kind of soak in several things that have happened in that very last scene that kind of mix it up. Pretty cool to see your name on a credit like this. Ashley, I think in her commentary, teased me saying my name too many times, but honestly, I think she was jealous because her name isn't shown right away. But, our cast all did a great job. Casey did an awesome job with the effects, and you see Allison's name, I think, in more departments than anyone else's. Allison was just like, whatever we needed, Allie did that. Allie is definitely a person who can just apply yourself to anything, and she becomes a master of it. Like I said with that Adobe Audition, and that was something I can't do that, and she didn't know how to do it, and she took 2 days to teach herself, and then boom, did it, and it was just amazing. Here she did the cinematography behind the scenes too. Haley and Andrew did a lot behind the scenes too. We're really grateful for them. And Christina is a friend of mine who just kind of showed up on a day of shooting to see what it was like, and we assigned her with a task. And some of the production assistants were there for one of the scenes. We had a lot of people there during the hangwoman scene to just help and make sure everything was safe and
hoist her up and
doing little things that were needed around the set.
Joe Cordero, that's my father. He built the hangwoman frame and that set, and that was great. See, now we get to the cast. But everyone was great. I think we were so blessed to be able to work with friends and people that were really just wanted to do this, wanted to see it happen. It's just great to work with people that not only are good at what they do, but love doing it too. I would prefer to work with someone who loves what they do than are really good at it, because then you can better yourself at it. But it was great to have both of those. And everyone we did. The classroom children, they all did a good job too. Weston Cantrell, he's a good friend. As far as we know, he's got no relation to Casey Cantrell. It's kind of unusual. He did a great job. Actually, that was the very first part of production, was recording Weston Cantrell's lines in the voiceover, the husband's lines in like the orchard scene. He did a great job. So he finished everything he had to do before almost anyone else even started their stuff. The Poor Man's Poison, incredible band, did an awesome job. Parks and Rec was so awesome in helping us make the film and promoting it. And Chris did an awesome job with all of our marketing art, the posters and the DVD leaves and sleeves. Chris is so talented and just an amazing artist. Susie did an incredible job with the entity. A lot of talent that I hope as we continue to do other projects, they get to show off their talent more. I definitely want to have repeat collaborations with a lot of these artists, because they're all amazing at what they do.
I'm so grateful to all the people that helped out, all the people we listed in our special thanks, helped out in some way, donating something, letting us use something. And, you can see that we definitely utilized the help of a lot of people that we knew to be able to make this all possible.
Even people that just donated a lot of stuff to a yard sale, but as a fundraiser for the movie. So many people just contributed in ways that small or large, basic bottom line made the movie possible. So Renscape, that is the name of our company. We're very proud of being doing kind of corporate stuff, commercials, corporate videos, weddings for about 5 years now, full time as freelancers at this point. And this is our first. We've done some short films, but this is our first big cinematic venture. We're very proud of it. So, hey, thank you for listening to this commentary. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you're an aspiring filmmaker, I would just say don't give up. Just get out there. Just if you have a story you want to tell it. Don't let anything hold you back. So, thanks for listening. Keep watching out for what we do next. Thanks.